Hi. Okay, welcome to the longevity mindset. So, if you're here, right, it means that you're looking for something different, maybe if you find yourself here. And I think I'm going to give it to you. So today I want to talk to you about narratives. Right? So a narrative is kind of like a conversation that you accept, right? So we accept a lot of narratives. Like we've accepted narratives since the beginning of time. And there's a huge narrative around aging, right? Aging is a $1 trillion industry. Yep, right? They are selling us all kinds of things, right? But they can only sell us these things if we accept the narrative. So there is a narrative in society around aging that I am not buying into, right? And I don't want you to buy into it. Now it's hard. My way of thinking is not the usual narrative. Because I've created my own narrative, right? So why have I done that? Right. So let me give you a little bit of background on myself. I was born in Austria, and when I was 6 months old, my dad went to work one morning and never came home. He was a crane operator, and he had left his lunch in the little crane box, and the crane touched a live wire and he was electrocuted. So literally my mom, who had just had me, I was 6 months old, right, watched her husband go to work and never came back. So that changed the trajectory of my life. Right? And my mom couldn't take care of me. So I was shuffled from relative to relative, right? Dirt poor. Nobody had any money to feed an extra mouth, right? So, and I was that extra mouth. So when I came to the door, so there were 3 sets of relatives who took care of me in the course of a year. And there were no smiling, welcoming faces, right? To say, oh God, here's little Lydia, isn't she cute? No, there was, like, how are we going to feed this little girl, right? So, so I learned very early on to create my own narrative. And it was really important to me, right? So when they said something to me, right, blah, 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 you can't do this, you should do this, right? Then what was going on in my head was, okay, that's your opinion, right? But I don't have to accept it because you're not my mom. You're not my dad. Right? Yeah. So when you have a mom and dad, you don't have this conversation, right? Your mom and dad, they tell you something and you think, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, sure, right? You accept everything, right? But I didn't accept anything. So I created my own narrative from the beginning. Right? So I created the narrative around, okay, so what kind of clothes should I wear? What should my makeup look like? What should my life as a teenager look like? So I created this in my head because I had a habit. I had a habit of creating it. Right? So I never accepted conventional narratives. Right? So eventually, when I was 6, my mom died. And the narrative that I have in my head about my parents is that their exit strategy, leaving the planet early, gave me a better life. Right? It allowed me to come to Canada. It allowed me to get an education. It allowed me to travel all over the world. and it allowed me to create my own narrative of my own life, right? So there is this, like, I never really put that much importance on narrative, right? I just thought, okay, this is just who I am and what I do in my head, right? But the narrative about aging is so strong and so overwhelming and so powerful, right, that I have noticed that it has an effect on me, right? So let me give you an example. I was in Thailand last year, and 3 weeks by myself. I had a great time. I had a little cottage right on the ocean. I had a wonderful time. In the morning, I went for a walk. Anyway, I met this woman, and this woman was 58. She was there with her son, and from Ireland. And, we kind of got along, right? So, so we had dinner together one night, and and she thought I was her age, which is a huge compliment to me, because I'm not 58, and I can't tell you how old I am. Right? That's part of my thing, right? I never tell people how old I am, because it changes the narrative in their head, right? And then you become a victim of their narrative, right? So here I am. I can't even remember her name. Let's call her Josephine. So Josephine's sitting there, and I'm sitting there, and she kept bugging me about, how old are you really, right? And I said, well, I don't really tell people my age. Blah, blah, blah. So every once in a while, I fall off the turnip truck and I ignore my own, wisdom, right? And I told her how old I was. And, at first, it's usual. Oh, wow, you don't look that old, and blah. And then the predictable happens. She started treating me, her perception of what somebody my age should be, right? And she started with age jokes, and she started insulting me, because now she knew the truth, right? And she can treat me differently. Wow, it was a really unpleasant experience, and I actually had to cut it off, right? I said, I'm sorry, Josephine, we can't hang out. No. So you have to be careful of who you hang out with, but I'm going to get to that. Recently, I saw this movie F1, and I love this movie so much, right? And I'm thinking, what is it about this movie do I love? Am I a Formula One person? No. Do I care about cars? No. Do I care about racing? No. Right? And I struggled, right, until this morning, right? I'm getting ready for this taping, right? And I thought, oh my goodness. Brad Pitt. It's his narrative. Brad Pitt had in the movie, please go see it. Brad Pitt had his own narrative, right? It's different from all the other people's narrative. Everybody else bought into the society's narrative, the narrative about money, the narrative about education, the narrative of what you should look like, the narrative of what you should act like. That narrative is here, path of least resistance, the common narrative. And here was Brad Pitt on his way to Mordor to put the ring in the fire. He had his own narrative, and I was a teacher in China for 9 years, and I taught this. I didn't know that's what I was teaching, but I was saying, here's everybody on the path of least resistance. I want you to be on the road less traveled, right? So that's where you are with me. You are on the road less traveled. So many people have talked about this, but they haven't called it like I'm calling it, like Deepak Chopra, right? He talks about how you can create your own reality. Eckhart Tolle, right? These are great thinkers, right? But I think what they're saying, maybe it's too broad. It might be too vague, right? But I'm going to narrow it down for you. And if you stay with me in this space, I am going to give you the road less traveled. Oh, it's over here. The road less traveled narrative. I'm going to give you that narrative, right? If you stay with me. I'm writing a book. I'm almost finished. And when I finish the book, it's going to be a little book, but it's going to be about a different narrative. It's going to be the longevity narrative. It's not going to be the aging narrative. Right? Aging narrative is the path of least resistance. Yeah, sure, I'll accept everything. Yeah, I'll get those diapers, right? I'll get that, it drives me crazy, right? Like what we're being conditioned to believe about ourselves. I'm over here. I'm on the road less traveled narrative. And if you want to join me on that road, I would be really honored. Before I finish, I want to say this about be careful who you hang around with, right? Now, I don't have anybody in my life who is the same narrative as me. I don't. Right? And maybe I'm hoping to meet somebody. Like, please contact me if you have a similar narrative to me, right? Like, but I have two special people in my life. Like, I don't talk to my kids about this, right? Because they already think I'm a little. So, but I have two people in my life who I absolutely adore. They don't share my narrative, but they accept the fact that I have a different narrative. Like, they don't make fun of me. They don't ridicule me. They accept, okay, Lydia she thinks differently, right? They're my age, my two buddies, right? So one is my bestie, Jane, and the other one is my partner, Tom. And they don't necessarily believe what I believe, but they appreciate who I am. And that's what you need. So join this space if you're like me, if you want a different longevity narrative. I am going to be giving you different tips. I am going to be giving you what different people think, right? And they will all be supportive of the narrative that I've created for myself, which is the longevity mindset. It's all part of it. Everything starts with how you think. Everything. All right. Thank you. And I want this to be like a conversation, right? I'm having a cup of tea with you. So please join this conversation. All right. We'll see you next time. Bye.